Hello and welcome back to our Leading Women in Hospitality podcast. Today we have Flavia from Pellicano Hotels joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. Hi, everybody.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Ready for summer here.
Yes, we just need that rain to go, don't we, in Rome and Italy at the moment. But Flavia, for those that don't know you already, I mean, I'm sure many do already know you, but do you mind just giving us a bit of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name is Flavia, as you said. I've been working in the tourism hospitality sector for more than 10 years now. I'm Italian from Rome. Actually traveled a bit the world and lived in about 7 cities, including London, which always be, my home in a way. And then came back to Italy about 6 years ago and started working at Pellicano Hotels, which I absolutely adore.
Amazing. And what's your role with them?
I'm the head of commercial now, so I'm heading up all the sales and marketing team, except for the PR. So anything related to revenue management, distribution, down to sales, marketing, groups and events, and bookings.
A big remit for you then.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you've obviously visited a lot of different countries and lived in maybe many different cities. Obviously you're back in Italy now, but how have you found that?
Going back, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, from my experience, but also I found for the experiences of a lot of people that I know, when you live in a lot of different places, you will never end up being completely satisfied in one place because, I will always miss a little bit, Bondi Beach in Australia or Crouch End in London, or the culture in Paris. So even Milan, I will miss being from Rome. It's something that, it's kind of normal because then you become a different human beings, and then you will never find in one place everything that you need, but you decide to stay in the place that most represents you and your needs, I suppose.
Yeah. And was that just traveling, or did you do that with work, or what was your situation in that sense?
Well, I started in Paris, La Sorbonne. And then I lived in Australia, in Sydney and Brisbane, just, to have a break in between university and my master's degree. And then I came back to north of Italy and lived in Trieste to do my master's degree it was an MBA in tourism. And then started working at Four Seasons in Milan, moved back again to London because I lived there already in 2010, been in London for 4 years. And then I've met my current boss about 6 years ago in Sweden during a work trip. And, I always said I would never go back to Italy unless I found a job that is like leisure oriented, where I can walk to the office, but, the hotels are by the sea, which was something almost like impossible. And then he proposed me this thing, which was exactly like it was checked
all the boxes.
All the points. And I was like, wow, I guess I really cannot say no to that. So
yeah, dream job for you then.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so obviously we'll go into your journey probably a little bit in terms of how you got to where you are now, but did you always want a career in hospitality? What did kind of your younger self want to do? What was the dream job? No.
Not really. I wanted to be a musician,
Oh, yeah. Nice.
I started studying singing when I was like 15 years old. And I had this dream of starting at the Berkeley, School of Music in the States. But then, and here we kind of go closer to the topic of, in a way of the podcast. Sometimes there are certain mindsets that kind of stick, in your mind, and, music was not perceived as a professional path to take. So I was like, okay, I love languages, I love traveling, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I started studying languages and I started traveling, and then it kind of, built up by itself in a way without me realizing. I remember when Four Seasons offered me an internship job. I was with my colleagues at master, and I didn't know anything about this industry. And I thought it was, for seasons for me, it was just a pizza. I really didn't know about anything. So I was very calm at the interview because, of course, I didn't have a clue who I was talking to. And then from there, kind of all started. So I'm very happy to work in this field now.
And do you think that it was other people's opinions and mindset that pushed you towards that then? Kind of, do you just think that's how society is, really? You feel that you have to take a certain route?
Well, yeah, in a way, coming from a very, I'm gonna say, very strict and with a very strong sense of duty family. Like my family is very much focused on, sense of duty and doing the right thing. So I guess no one ever told me not to do something. It's just my brain kind of elaborated that it was, I always connected music to having fun and enjoying life. And in a way, back then, 20 years ago, your job wasn't supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be a job, So, I just decided to take a different path.
Yeah, it's a difference between kind of hobbies and a career, but actually for many it can be both. So, but obviously enjoying what you're doing now, but tell us a bit more about your journey to where you are now then.
Well, I'm definitely enjoying it now. I always thought in a way, I never believed in destiny or something like that, but I do believe in coincidences in life. And there have been certain things, like I started working in PR and marketing at Four Seasons. And then when I moved to London, I so desperately looked for a job in the events or PR and marketing. I really wanted to do events, And I remember sending a lot of curricula and no one, was calling me. I was like, oh, like I will never be able to do that if I am not able to do it in London. And people kept calling me for this sales job, which I didn't want to do because I was like, no, I want to do something creative. I don't want to do sales. And then I ended up, accepting a job in the other side of the city because, London very well. You can't just live there without working.
Yeah.
And then I started working in Chelsea in this sales position, and I realized I actually loved it. And the more I worked in the hospitality field, the more I realized that that was exactly the job for me. Like when I get to know more about the other, let's say departments, my idea of working in sales became stronger and stronger. So something, against my will apparently led me to the right path in a way.
And who convinced you to go into that sales job then?
Well, pretty much the fact that I had to work because I couldn't survive without working. So, and also I remember Belinda, she was the director of sales there. The girl that she hired me, she was so young, she was like almost past 30. And she was such a strong woman. And I always thought you work for people, you don't work for the company, because the people that work in a company make what the company identity, culture, and philosophy is. And I definitely decided that day to marry, Belinda, if you want, in a way, not to marry the company. And for me, it was really hard. She said, I need someone staying here for at least 2 years. And for me, it was like 3 hours commute back and forth from my house. And then after a month, actually, she left. And I was like, oh, wow. It took me so long to take this decision because I didn't want to give my word and not, maintaining the promise. And then when she left, someone else came. And after 6 months, this other person left and she wanted to take me with her. So I was the coordinator at the time, but I was pretty much managing all the inbox of the director of sales and marketing, doing, bonuses for the team, looking at revenue, and I loved it. So I guess it was pretty useful for her. So she decided to take me with her to her new job, which I did. And I stayed there for 2.5 years before leaving, until I left.
Amazing. And did you have kind of ever that influence in terms of revenue management to do that side of things, or was that just kind of natural things that you were getting involved and just natural progression into that side of things?
I think that pretty much comes from the fact that I love optimizing things. I'm a little bit crazy for Excel files. I would do an Excel file to go food shopping if I could. If it didn't look
Yeah,
very
no one
weird
likes food shopping anyway.
and I like, looking at things and saying, how can I make this better? This has always been my biggest strength, whether it is, making the life of an employee better, or whether it is increasing company revenue, or, optimizing the way different departments work together. In general, like at home with my friends, with my partner, family, or at work, I like kind of taking things to the next level. And revenue management, I think, is pretty much that. So it's having something in your hands and saying, okay, how can I make this better? How can I increase, margin, basically? So that's the part that I love the most, for sure.
Yeah. And what was it about the hospitality industry that you love so much, do you reckon?
Well, when I was until the pre-COVID era, I loved traveling. Like, for me, more than loved, I was addicted to traveling. Like, I had to travel at least once or twice a month. So working in sales in this field means traveling a lot. I reached a point in 2019 and 2018 where I was doing like 30 to 35 sales trips per year. Then at a certain point, it kind of became too much for me. But at the beginning, for me, was a way to, getting to know more culture, different people, talking different languages. I always loved learning new languages, seeing the world, really, even though when you travel for work, you don't see much, I have to say, because a lot of people hate you because they're seeing, you're in Mexico and the next day you're in Dubai, and then they think you're living la vida loca, but in reality, you're just, inside a hotel talking with an iPad in your hands all day. But that's what inspired me the most, definitely.
Yeah, it is amazing. I know you, like you said, you don't get to see much of the countries that you're visiting, just to even be able to see a glimpse of it and be able to say that you've worked in all of those different countries. I bet is amazing.
Yeah, it is a really good experience anyway.
Yeah, and do you think you've kind of encountered any challenges or any obstacles as a woman in this industry kind of throughout your career?
Look, I certainly encountered a lot of obstacles in my career. I'm not really able to say whether these obstacles were related to the fact that I'm a woman, or if any person would have encountered the same obstacles, because I never lived in a male's shoes. So I really don't know if life is easier for them. What I found is that a lot of people, indistinctly, whether women or men, of course, when you're running a company, when you work at a top level of a company, your top priority is making sure that the company maintains a healthy margin, so a healthy profit, reducing costs, increasing revenue. That's always been the must. It doesn't matter which field you work. And so I suppose the consequence of that is that a lot of no's comes in your way, especially for a person that asks a lot. And I am a person that asks a lot because I give a lot and I pretend a lot in exchange. So this has always been a little bit my strength and my weakness at the same time, because I'm very much well aware of what I bring to a company. I'm very much aware of what I can do that others cannot do. I'm very much aware of my limits as well. So I work around that. And I have to say, after so many years, having started my career being a very insecure person, thinking I wasn't really good at doing things, after, almost 12 years, I have to say, pretty good at what I'm doing. You know, I'm actually bringing a lot of results home. And for that reason, of course, when you give a lot, you also want a lot back. And in many companies, this is not like this is not the consequence that you should ask for. So sometimes you should give more, full stop. And for me, it never worked that way. So this is definitely the main obstacle I had. I wanted to grow fast because I'm, you know, each one of us has some, you know, something special that you can bring onto the table. For me, was having a very fast way of thinking, you know, being very transversal, finding solution very rapidly, really thinking out of the box, to use very overused term. So when you know and when you're aware that you're like that, you want to do things at your pace, and your pace is not always other people's pace. So at a certain point, you have to learn either to accept or to fight for what you want.
Yeah, then frustrations, that pushback, that you're not being able to take things where you want to take them at the speed that you want to as well.
Definitely.
And how do you reckon you navigated through those types of challenges?
Well, I definitely struggle with acceptance. It's definitely not my best friend, not my best quality as well. So also because I think I'm very down to earth in a way that I tend to ask things that I know are very feasible. I know my numbers, I know the way things work. It is true though that sometimes you just have to accept that different people will do things differently from your way. And I'm trying to work on that even now, because of course, you know, the more you go up, the more you would have something to say. So it is a balance in between understanding when is the time to push the accelerator and when is the time to just, you know, sit back and take a bit more time to see if the way other people do things maybe work as well, you know?
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned you're still even learning qualities and skills that you need to have now. I mean, that never stops through our whole lives. But what skills do you think you have learned over the years that have been really important for a head of commercial in a position that you're in now? And where do you learn those skills from? How do they come in?
Yeah, well, my boss, which has always been my boss since I came back to Italy, literally taught me a lot in the way, like, he told me how to treat people in your department. He actually told me that I had to take time for myself. I was working, you know, 12 hours or more at the beginning. And he would come around 6 p.m. saying, you know, I'm going home and you should do the same, which for me was a little bit, oh, okay, that's weird, you know, like he's telling me
You're
to
not
go
supposed to be here
home
all night.
and have a life, you know. He actually told me that sometimes you can do things tomorrow. Sometimes you can say no, sometimes you can push back. Actually, one of my line manager in London as well, she told me once, you know, I see that you're drowning with all the things that I'm giving you, but I will keep giving you things until you push back. So I realized I am the one that have to learn, you know, to push back, which with my team, I try to make it not the case. I don't think that should be the case. I think whoever is up higher in the hierarchy lived whatever, you know, your team is living right now and knows the challenges and shouldn't really put people in the position to say that is too much. You should know when it's too much. So
and how do you control that, I guess? How do you know if someone's dealing with too much?
I ask a lot of feedback. So I make it very clear with the people working in my team, I make it very clear that, you know, some of them are older than me. Some of them are, you know, if you want, more expert in the private life, meaning maybe they have a family, they have children. So like they had different experiences. So I make it very clear that yes, I'm your land manager, and there's a reason for that, because I probably have certain skills that you're learning now, but you need to give me feedback on my person, because I'm a human being. I found what people really forget very often is that the authority is not unlinked to the human being that's behind the authority. So I always had a huge problem in recognizing authority. I speak it in the same way with pretty much everyone. So I might use a more formal way of talking with clients, but I have the same, transparency. And I ask people to be transparent with me at the same time. If you don't ask feedback to your team, if you don't ask them how are they feeling, how are things in the life, is it, a period, a time of the life that they're struggling with. If you don't ask this question, and if you don't ask, how am I doing to you, what do you think I could improve? Then, of course, it needs to be selective in the way you will receive a lot of feedbacks, and you need to be prepared to receive a lot of feedbacks that you might not like sometimes. And you need to learn how to select the ones that actually need to be implemented, and the ones that are maybe just given because that person still needs to learn different kind of dynamics in the job. So it's not an easy job to do. I love doing that because I think that's the purpose of leading, connecting people. And you really learn a lot from people that are in your team as much as you learn from people that you report to.
It's all about having that good communication within your team, isn't it? And making sure there's an environment where you can talk to each other if you need that help outside of work as well, because it affects your work inside. So it's really good to hear that you're that type of boss that takes that time and consideration and makes sure that people aren't overloaded with work, and then you're going to get the best out of people as well, aren't you? So it works all round, really.
Yes, at least, we should ask them, but,
yeah,
I hope they'd say the same.
Yeah. And obviously hospitality industry is pretty well known for being a demanding industry. How do you manage that work-life balance at a senior level?
I've learned that here. I've learned that it's not how many hours you work, it's the quality of time that you work. And there will be days that, I was forcing myself to work 9 to 6 at least. But people are not productive in the same way every day. And each one of us has different needs. So if a person has a 2-year-old child that is sick at home and is crying all day, I wouldn't tell her or him to come to the office because we have to be in the office, because I think that the more you're happy, the more flexibility you receive, the more productive you'll be. Maybe you'll work 5 hours instead of 8, but do we really care? Like, do we really care how many hours? This is a Fordian, method that used to work in factories, but now I think we're kind of taking it to the next level, I hope, in a way that people realize that each one of us has a different speed in life, and your life speed will reflect in your job speed. And something that might take you 2 hours might take me 7 hours. So it is okay to give people the possibility to take their time to carry on with a private life. And I'm trying to do it because I realized until I didn't do it, you wouldn't give the example to others to do the same. So if you're working 14 hours per day and then you tell your team, you shouldn't, they're not going to do it, because, you have to.
They look up to you, you're a role model to them at the same time as well.
They wouldn't feel empowered to do it,
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you mentioned there whether maybe somebody had a young child, and I think it's known that having a child as a woman can kind of stunt someone's career, and they feel that it's more difficult and challenging for them to continue to progress. Do you think there's things that the hospitality industry is doing to help improve that and help that more manageable for women that want to have children?
I think that is it's a very generic phenomenon, meaning like there's so many different companies in this field, in different cultures, in different countries, that is really difficult to give one single answer to that. I think it really goes down to the company. It doesn't matter in which industry you work in. It doesn't matter, which country. Each company, like Google, will be Google pretty much everywhere Google is, and it has its very strong company identity, and which is known for flexibility and benefits and all of that. So I often hear that our industry is not innovative, is not ready for the future, is one of these stiff, fields where people work at. And I mean, yes, it's true, but it's also an excuse, because every company can make an exception to that, and every company can put a little brick to build, the well, not the wall, but the path. If you want to path that all the others will follow. It always starts from one person. So I think.
And have you had any kind of positive experiences on that side of things, where people have promoted that internally and been able to help that process moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, again, it really depends on the person, on the company. I am lucky enough to work in a company that really takes care of, employees' well-being. Then, of course, are we perfect? No, we're not perfect. We could improve in so many things. Also, if I think that we are in Italy, I do think we are innovative in a lot of things, because Italy is no UK, is no France. There's so many steps to reach still in flexibility in general, in mindset flexibility, whether is how you go dressed around, what car you're driving, where you hang out, who you hang out with. Is really, we have a very strong tradition that kind of you can feel it everywhere. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's a bit less good, let's say.
I mean, I feel like we've come a long way since the pandemic, for example, when people couldn't even work remotely beforehand, and no one could see how that would ever work, and it was very rare to see people being able to work remotely, and now it's a very common thing for people to be able to do that. So it's good to see that things are moving in the right direction. And I know if you're an on-property role in hospitality, maybe you don't get that flexibility, but kind of in a head office and things, it's good to see that things are moving in the right direction at least.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in cluster. Of course, we have a little bit of this flexibility, even though we do have offices in Rome. But in general, I think we can, sometimes people find different solutions when they're obliged to think of different solutions, like COVID, for example. It would be very nice to do what a lot of people do already, which is thinking about alternative solution without having the need of thinking of alternative solution, that would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And throughout your career, do you think there's been any key milestones or achievements that has helped you get to where you are now? Do you think kind of there's ever been anything in particular that's really made a difference to you?
Well, there's so many happenings that, I really consider very important and relevant to my career. I think probably before starting working, I remember I wanted to drop university, and then, my mother came to me saying, just a few exams, even if you don't care, just finish it off and then you'll see, don't give it just too much importance. And then again, after when I had to go back to Italy from Australia to do the master, I was very, invested by the weight of this choice. And then again, my mother said, it doesn't matter, you just go. If you don't like it, then you can drop it, and Just start and you'll see. So I think these two milestones, which are pretty much before my career, really shaped the way I lived my career, because she really taught me to think, just give it a try. Don't think now that you're not able to do it, because if you decide that you're not able to do it, you will never gonna make it.
Yeah.
So just start, and then you'll see that you're gonna make it. And if you want to do something more, you will do something more. If you want to do something different, you'll do something different. So I think this kind of Nike, everything is possible way of thinking really works.
You've got to push yourself out of your comfort zone and try new things to see what you like and what you don't like, don't you?
Yeah, and it's incredible to me. It's still incredible how many people I meet that really live in their limiting beliefs, like strongly live in the limiting beliefs. And you see things from the outside saying, everything is perfect for you to do this move, but they will keep saying, like listing reasons, like really not valid reasons. And this is really something that, surprises me, because I never had that. So I think that's probably the difference. The way you perceive yourself will make the others perceive yourself in the same way. So you really need to work on that if you want to, I think, move on in your career.
It's quite easy to kind of set those own obstructions in your head, so you can create it in your own mind and kind of prevent yourself from and talk yourself out of doing something where actually if you did it, who knows how great it could be. I guess a little bit similar to kind of your younger self when you had a dream of going into music, and your own mindset actually has an influence on where you take things. Obviously it's not all bad because you're where you are now, but it's you have just got to kind of leap into the deep end and just give it your best shot, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
And obviously you mentioned your mother there. Do you think, apart from her, who I'm sure has brought you up amazingly well, but do you have any other women that have inspired you throughout your career that you've kind of have really made an impact and empowered you?
Absolutely. Well, when in London, I had 5 line managers. 3 of them were women, and for the good or the bad, I mean, I think 2 of them are really what a women in career for me means. They're very different people. They do perceive business in a very different way. They really taught me a lot without purpose, like just, watching them. And, I really learned a lot by sitting next to them and seeing the way they were dealing with people, the way they were treating clients, organizing their day, and even from the one that kept dumping things on me, I learned something. Whether I would say it's a positive example, I'm not sure, but you can still learn something. I really like to think that in life you either succeed or you learn. And I think in these cases, I really learned a lot, that sometimes you cannot just trust people because they say they're going to do something, and some other times you can. But all these women had a common thing, which is, if I can say it, is a very strong strength. Like they were very, they were fighters, which is again, like, it shouldn't really be the case. You shouldn't be a fighter to reach the objective that you want to reach. Unfortunately, you have to, because it's a very competitive world, not field, world in general. I don't think it's a matter of being women or men, even though, of course, if you put your makeup on and a skirt, you are looked at in a different way. But in general, I think you really need to wake up in the morning and decide if you want to grow your career. I felt for a lot of years I was going to work, I wasn't going to work. And it was pretty much like it's either them or me. I don't feel like that now, and I think it's a much better way of living. So much better.
And obviously you mentioned their strength there that would have inspired you. What skills would you say maybe just like 3 key skills do you think somebody that maybe is considering being in your position one day, what skills do you think they need to have, and how do they go about learning those skills if they're not naturally already got them?
Yeah, I would say transversal thinking. So I think it's very important. Strategy, learning how to do strategy, not a business strategy, like human strategy. And then being determined, being very tenacious in what you do. I think those 3 are, the roots that everyone should have. You have to know who you are, and you need to be very determined not to change idea on that, because a lot of people will come to you and tell you that you're not ready, or you're not good enough, or you're asking too much, or it's not the right time, you're being out of politeness, that you're being too much. Women often are too much, they're told that they're too much. And when and this happened to me a lot, this happened to me from women as well in my career. And when, if you are too much, that's amazing. I mean, you're more than enough. So that's great, right? And I also met a lot of people that have been told the same, and they started believing it. They started believing that they were asking too much. They were not polite. They're not being, professional. They're not being in their place, in their little square, determined by someone else for them. And that made me really angry, because no one should really tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. You will always have to be respectful in the way you communicate and polite. But I think it's really important for people to know who they are, to know their value, to remember every day what value they bring to the table of the company. And also, I think it's a matter of creating a sort of dependency, if I can use this word, with the others. So if you want to grow your career, you should make the life of whoever is higher than you easier. Because at the end of the day, board of directors or CEOs, they will have to take decision for the company, but they will also have to take decision for them to have a balance in the life, and they will have the double of your job to do. So if you help them doing their job, then you become necessary in their life. And this is strategy, and you're not doing anything bad. You're just helping you by helping the others. So I think that's
it works both ways, definitely. I mean, going back to what you said before, it's a shame to hear that maybe other women aren't empowering other women in the industry, because naturally, I guess the conversation we have and these are kind of, when have women empowered you, but actually you don't think about the fact that other women may not empower each other, which is a real shame. And do you think that's still happening, or do you think it's improved?
Yeah. I don't think that women, a lot of women would do it with everyone, not just with other women. It's a mindset, I think, big people in life, like the famous people that really achieved a lot, they either come from big family drama where they have to prove that, that they're better and they can do it, and then they become, Elon Musk or whatever, or they come from a family that really empowered them to believe that they can be whoever they want, they can do whatever they want. So these 2 extremes sometimes lead to the same conclusion, sometimes lead to the opposite, lead to frustration. So if you achieve that for yourself, then you don't want others to achieve it so easily. And I heard a lot of that in, maybe this guy is too young, he wants to grow too quickly. If he's faster than others, he should grow faster than others. It's not age, it's what you have here, it's how you use it. So
to just help lift everybody up to be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve. And obviously there's going to be obstructions in any industry, in any career, but hopefully everyone can allow each other to take the path that they're actually looking to take as well. Interesting. Yeah, thank you. And I guess, like I mentioned before, I'd like to end every podcast in the same way. And what advice do you think that you'd give to other women either aspiring to be in this industry or maybe already are and want to get to the place that you're in? What advice would you give to them?
The advice I would give to them and to pretty much everyone in general is to keep their thoughts free. I think freedom of thinking, whatever you believe is right, is really rare nowadays. And we get limited by a lot of impositions that come from the outside, whether it's family, company, work, tradition, society. So I think once you maintain your freedom, you remember every day who you are and the value that you have, and you bring, then you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I guess one more question before I let you go. If someone's thinking, I want to join the hospitality industry or a career within commercial, sales, marketing, revenue management, whatever that may look like, or even operational in hospitality, where do they start? Where do you think that you should, where's your starting point to get into this industry?
Well, I think, of course, if you start in sales and marketing, if you want to work in sales and marketing with an internship, it's going to be the fastest way. But I've met a lot of people as well that started at reception. They grew our way up. I think it's very important to pass the message that, of course, if you had a good scholarization is good, but I don't believe that's mandatory. Not everyone can afford, expensive university, whether it is, Glion or Les Roches, or, Cornell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can learn knowledge from everyone and in every place. And if you do it on the field, it's going to be the best thing. So I just want to tell all the people that maybe start from a lower, step, that you can do it as long as you have enough strength in you. Apply for an internship wherever it is. You want to work in a company, the important is to get into the company, and then you can move inside. So
yeah, definitely agree with that. But yeah, Flavia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been great to hear your journey and your advice that you'd give to others. And obviously you spoke a lot about communication and strength, and I think that you're a fantastic leader, it seems, to your team. And it's really nice to hear you're so down to earth and you really do care about others. And I think that can get lost sometimes in a senior position, as we've heard that maybe you've encountered with other people in the industry. So yeah, I'm sure you'll inspire many others to get to where you are now, and hopefully this will come of use to somebody that's thinking about joining the industry as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I guess, is there anything you want to add before we wrap this up, or?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been very nice talking to you, Lucy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know this is going to be a great episode, so hopefully this will be out soon, and I'm sure we'll have many to come, and hopefully you'll enjoy listening to the other episodes that we've got coming up as well.
I will, for sure.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks.